So you finally did it. You opened up that PowerShell window on your computer, and now you're sitting there looking at a blank screen with a blinking cursor. Now what? Well, join me for this video, and we will get into your first time configuration of PowerShell. So pretty soon you can turn what now into watch this. Hello world, Mike is learning PowerShell. Thanks for joining me. So today we're going to do something really important. We are going to get our PowerShell window set up for use for the first time. So yeah, you might have seen PowerShell before. You might have seen that blank blue window and didn't really know what to do with it. Well, that's what we're going to work on today. At least we're going to get started doing it. So let's go ahead and open up PowerShell. Let's just get started down there. PowerShell and enter. Okay, and we are in the wrong window, so let's bring it over here. There we go. Alrighty, so well, first of all, we're going to make it a little easier for us to see here. Let's go ahead and open that up, and I am going to hold down my control key and scroll up. That's going to let us see a little bit more there. First thing we want to do, we want to go ahead and do Start-Transcript. Okay, transcript has started. Tells us where the output file is. So what Start-Transcript does, it starts a transcript of everything that we do in PowerShell. So maybe you're following along and you type in some commands that I do, but you forgot what they were a week from now. So you can go back into your transcript and you can see everything that happened in your PowerShell window. So now, no matter what I do, whether I'm doing a ls, whether I'm doing a GCI, and whether I'm doing a dir, doesn't matter. Where are we at here? Holy cow, we're scrolled all the way down here. All right, so what I did here, I did just a couple commands. I did ls. If you ever use bash in Linux, you're familiar with what ls does. GCI, that's kind of a weird one. It stands for Get Child Item. I know you don't know what that is yet, but we'll get to that. dir, if you use Windows Command Prompt, you've used dir before maybe. Just shows you directory listing. Of course, you'll notice that all three things did exactly the same thing. Let's just clear the screen again. CLS clears the screen. Okay, now that we did a start transcript, let's see what version of PowerShell we are on. Just see, what are we doing? PS version table. Okay, so we can see that we are on 5.1, PS version 5.1. So some of you might be opening up your window and you're doing a PS version table and you're seeing something around 7 or 7.2, 7.3 maybe. That's completely possible. That is the current version that PowerShell is on. However, I like to use 5.1. That's what I use at work. There is a lot of modules that still work on it. Everything I need to do is in PowerShell 5.1. It's stable. It's consistent. So a lot of companies still use 5.1 for the time being. Of course, over time, everyone's going to move up to 7 and go from there. But everything we're going to do in this series to start off with is going to be on 5.1. Okay, so we see what our version is here. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to set our execution policy. I know that doesn't make any sense to you right now. That's fine. But let's go ahead and boy, I'm just not typing today. Set execution policy. And we want to set it to remote signed. All right, and I'm going to hit enter. And what's going to happen? We get this. It says, okay, we got all that. And we say yes to all. And we get an error. Uh-oh, what's going on here? So if we look over here, it says access to the registry key is denied. So we have to start Windows PowerShell with the Run as Administrator option. Okay, we can't make any important changes at all without being an administrator, without running as an administrator. So let's just go ahead and close this. This time we're going to do PowerShell again. Now if we look over here, we have Run as Administrator. So let's do that. We're going to be requested to put in our password. And that's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and scroll it up again. Again, I'm holding down the Control button on my keyboard and scrolling up with my mouse. Okay, we're back in our PowerShell Administrator window. Let's go ahead and set execution policy again. And we're going to do remote signed. And you might be noticing that these kind of type a little quickly. We're doing tab complete. So as soon as you type in something that PowerShell understands what you're typing, you can hit tab and it will complete it for you. We'll get more into how PowerShell can help you out with things like that in a few minutes, but let's go ahead and enter again. This time we'll do yes to all, and bang, we're all set. Now we can do a get execution policy, and it tells us that it's remote sign. Great, that's where we want to be. One of the great things about PowerShell is its help files. If you've used Linux before, you've used the man files, and those are great, but PowerShell's help is really, really good. So what we want to make sure is that we update our help files. So what we need to do is we're going to go into PowerShell, update help. Now, nothing's going to happen for a second here because it does have a lot of stuff to go look for. Okay, that took about 30 seconds. No big deal. Now you do see that we have an error here. That's fine. It's just, it updated a lot of files, but there was just a few that it could not find help files for, so we're not going to worry about that. Let's do CLS again to clear the screen. Let's take a look at just a quick help file here. Let's see, how about we do get help? And we'll do, oh, since we did the update help, we'll just do that anyways. And you can see that I tacked on right here, it says examples. So the nice thing about PowerShell help is that you can ask it to give you just certain things. If you wanted everything, we could do detailed, but I don't want to see everything just now. I just want to see examples. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we can scroll up, and it's got a lot of things you can do actually with the file that we did. We wanted to see the files for update help, which is what we just did to update all the help files. So we can see that the name is update help. What does that do? Well, it downloads and installs the newest help files to your computer. And all we did for this one is just update help. There's a lot more you could do. You could do it for certain modules. We could do it for different locales. So we have a lot of help files here, and it could be something very, very fancy. We could do a whole job. We could, wow, there's just a lot here. We could update that specific module. We could just do a lot of things. So let's just get out here again, CLS. All right. Okay, this next part is my favorite part of PowerShell, actually. It's called Profile. Think of Profile as your instruction manual for how PowerShell should work. So I'm going to paste something in here. Let's just give us some more room. Bing, bing, bing. Okay. Okay, what does this say? If. If is going to look for something to happen or not. So let's look at this. If exclamation point test path path profile. What does that mean? Okay, so first we have the exclamation point. Exclamation point means not true. So we are seeing if this is not true. What does that mean? All right, test path. It is going to look for a path that includes your profile. Okay, that's kind of weird. Let's just get out of this for just a second. I am going to type in profile. Just do that. Now, right now, something should exist. If my profile does exist, it will exist here under OneDrive Documents, Windows PowerShell, Microsoft.PowerShell _ profile.ps1. Okay, that's a lot. If that exists, if this thing exists right here, then let's go back up to that. If that exists, then that is true. But if that does not exist, if this existing is not true, then we are going to create a new item. That item is going to be a file. Its path is going to be profile, which is this right here, including the actual file name with the PS1 extension. And it's going to force it just to make sure it does happen. So let's go ahead and hit enter. Something's happening. Okay. We can look at profile again. Profile. Okay, still there, but now we can, and I probably should have showed you this before, but Notepad profile. So what I'm doing here is I am telling Windows Notepad to open up profile, which is this right here. So it's now going to open up that file. And look at this. I'm scrolling through some stuff here. This is my profile that I have. Actually, let's kind of shrink it down because we don't want to really show you all that stuff right now. You might have noticed my title up here. What I have is I have a whole list of titles for my title bar just because I'm making it more interesting for myself. And what it does, it selects a random title, puts it in the title bar. Then it clears the host and gives me some other things here and then sets a location of C. Mike is learning PowerShell. That's what MILT means. It means Mike is learning PowerShell. So let's go ahead and close that. So profile does exist. If it did not exist, that would have been a blank file and I could have typed in whatever I want. The one I'm using here is a pretty small one. The one we use at work is a few thousand lines long. It has a whole bunch of stuff in it, and someday I'll add that to our discussion here and kind of show you everything that we do. Not everything, because there's some confidential stuff in there that we can't really show you. So what can we do to make our profile interesting? Well, like I just did, I changed my title bar. You can add extra aliases. We haven't talked about aliases yet, but you can add aliases. You can add functions, all kinds of stuff. So, all right, let's clear screen and get out of this. Okay, that's about it for right now. There's so much more I want to go into, but we'll save that for future videos. Real quick, I wanted to show you earlier in the video when we set our execution policy to remote signed. Here's a little thing about that. So don't worry about group policy. That's not really part of what we're doing here. But if you were to allow all scripts, no matter what, you would set it to unrestricted. That's a bad idea. It's a very unsecure practice. If you're in a sandboxed environment or you have some other security going on, that might be all right. But what we did is we set ours to remote sign. That means only allow local scripts. That means scripts that you created, and remote signed scripts. So if they've gone through some extra security before they got sent to you, that's fine. It'll run those. This will not run scripts that are emailed to you or ones that you've downloaded unless they've been signed. So if you download someone emails you a script and you try running it, if it's just remote signed and it's not a securely signed document, you're not going to be able to run it. Let's get out of here. Let's see what else. All right. Okay, we're going to wrap it up here. What did we talk about? We talked about a lot, actually. We talked about running a transcript. Whenever you start your PowerShell session, I'd actually recommend adding Start-Transcript to your profile, so it starts every time you start PowerShell. We talked about running as an administrator, so you have better access to do more with your PowerShell window. We talked about checking your version. Again, we're going to do most everything in 5.1 here. If you run 7.2, 7.3 or later, these will run just fine in that too, so don't worry about that. We talked about setting an execution policy. So we're setting it for remote sign, and I believe we did current user only. So it's not going to work for anybody else on the machine, just for you. We talked about starting a profile, really important, and how to check to see if you have one, and if it doesn't exist, to write one. And we talked about the exclamation point, what that does. We'll get more into that later. So, common mistakes that new people make when they're in PowerShell. They don't run PowerShell as an administrator, so sometimes things won't work. Remember, we tried setting the execution policy, and it didn't work the first time because we weren't running as an administrator. So we need to make that change. And we looked at different ways you can get help on PowerShell. So that's about it for now. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a lot more to talk about, and that's going to be in future videos. I have a lot of ideas and a lot of videos already started even, so please consider liking and subscribing and ringing the bell, all that good stuff that all of us YouTubers ask for, and it really does help. So not just for me, but for other people that you watch. Again, thanks for stopping in, and we'll see you in the next one.